Hey, welcome to the show. Thank you for calling in. Appreciate it. Love to get your thoughts on this. Let's start with this, though. You've been there as a defending champion, switching bikes and showing up and all, just like Chase Sexton. Now, I think we know through the grapevine, and Chase sort of admitted it, his offseason was a little rough on the new bike, getting used to it. And then, he'll take that third. But what's that like coming into a race with number one on a different brand? I mean, you were an uber confident guy, so I feel like you're decaf, but maybe take us through that a little bit.
I think it's always, both of them can be split into two, right? I think that, the past champion or, the reigning champion has a weight to it, and then, add going to a new team. Mm-hmm. I think that is even a little bit compounded more. I mean, that particular group and team was the same group that I went and partnered with after when I was champion. So they're well seasoned guys. I think that they it seems like the off season went pretty solid for Chase. So I'm actually a little bit surprised to hear maybe those comments. But
yeah, it was a little rough from people I know that are around it. It wasn't all roses with the new bike. So.
Interesting.
Yeah.
No, I guess I was always, we were so busy in the off season and, with my own stuff with the kids and stuff. And I guess normally I actually love to hear it and listen and all that kind of stuff, but I was busy with the kids.
So what caught your eye? Look, Jett, I don't think that's it. Like Daniel and I were just talking about it. And I think we're all just like, okay, yeah, he won. Like we just saw him win, all these races in the fall. So I don't know if Anaheim 1 win was that much of a surprise. But was it to you? And if not, what was your surprise from A1, Chad?
Yeah, not really taken back too surprised by Jett. Right. I think I think that everyone has said it more than enough, and I think it's real. I think that probably the biggest surprise with Jett for me, since I haven't been on the show or vocalized that is. As a 250 rider, I don't know that I would say he was great, but as a 450 rider, he's considerably better, in my opinion, like I think he's he had weakness on a 250. Like when I watched him, there was things that he needed to really be better at, and he had holes in his game, and step to a 450 doesn't normally fix all those holes. No. And he's exempt from that up until now, and it's really, really impressive to see what he's done. So on the Jett side of it, not surprised at all. Scares me to think how easy he did it, and I think that at any minute he could have rode away. I'm not a big believer of a guy going and winning all the supercrosses because I think supercross is very, very different than motocross, but it wouldn't surprise me that the guy runs in clean house this year,
Yeah.
Just because he's such his riding ability is one thing, but he's such a great starter too.
Yeah.
Anyway, off of that, I would say the biggest surprise for me is I hate the word stacked, like I think that it's a bunch of really good riders in there, but the gaps and the time between everyone was much bigger than a stacked class would, be for me. So yeah, it was interesting actually to watch it and kind of be a little bit removed from it than I normally am. Normally I feel like I have a little bit more of an understanding, kind of like just knowing where everyone's at and seeing it. And
sure.
But yeah, like just, I don't know, I felt more fanny, like just being able to, like I didn't get to watch any of the day stuff because we were busy and practicing and everything. And then so just kind of just to take that, sit on the couch and watch the guys do their thing. It was actually fun to see.
Chad, when you're talking about Jett on the 450, I was watching that too because on outdoor, you could see that he used all the bike and used every bit of it to do his thing, which is obviously use excessive skill. I kind of felt like Supercross might limit a little bit of that, and it would take his ability away to do too much because it's so tight and small. You don't get moving too fast. But back to your bike point, did you feel like with him on a 450 now that there's just no restraints, and he gets to kind of do everything easy? Where I feel like he did have to kind of work on the 250 to to pull it all off and be him. But on this, I feel like if it's the power or what, but it almost seems like a video game now. Like he's just playing with excess, and he doesn't have to really try as hard as he used to on the bike.
Yeah, he 100% is what I see. You know, like I kind of have maybe the opposite of what you're saying. Like I think his abilities and his technique and skill were gonna be more beneficial in Supercross. So I think, I just can't see anyone that's close right now. You know, like I think that there's false hope for how close everyone was in the early or, you know, to the midway point. But I really just think he's very clever. You know, he's clever at being able to gauge that. But then you see, you know, like the heat race, Coop put a wheel on him, and you know the game. Love it or hate it, you know the game. And so when Coop does that, it kind of is exciting, because if he doesn't do that, or if everybody doesn't start doing that, this is going to get really boring.
I agree.
You know?
Do you think, Chad, and I've kind of grilled your old mechanic there, Lars, at Honda a little bit, and I think Honda's got something off greats. Since the greats have come in, especially in Supercross, it seems like the Red Rider guys have a bit of an advantage. Now, they're using the Get stuff, you know, as far as that goes, but there's more that you can add to it. I don't know. I feel like Honda has some technology off greats. Now, Hunter got a god-awful start in the LCQ, and you know, so maybe my theory is just out the window, but when you look at Jett starts, and again, a lot of it is the rider, I get it, but I feel like Honda's got something going on now. Can't get anything out of Lars, obviously, but they got that thing perfect, man.
I would agree that they seem to be good, but then like when you go back to Kenny's days, and Chase was kind of hot and cold, like you said, Hunter hot and cold. You know, Freezy is really solid off the greats on a Honda, and also Jett has just been unbelievable through outdoors last year. And
yeah.
But I mean, when you look at, like, again, I don't think that Jett's heavy necessarily, but like he's considerably much bigger than most of the lights guys. And, you know, whether if you believe it or not, it seems that maybe the Honda was always a little more underpowered than, let's say, you know, the Star bikes or the PC bikes, at least what they claim. You know, and he seemed to always be able to hole shot. So I do think that his starting ability is next level too.
Yeah, it seems pretty nutty at times. Like we did a stat. My guy watched the races, and at the white stripe of 22 motos, there were 2 out of 22 that Jett was not in the top 5 at the white stripe. You know,
crazy.
Yeah, it's just it's phenomenal.
And if you have that, and then he obviously doesn't have any fitness issues, that seems to be just fine. So if the beginning and the end is covered, then it's just the 20 minutes in the middle where, again, it just seems like he does everything. Everyone does the same thing. They all do the same obstacles, but he does every single part of it better. Well, he's in the corner a little harder, out a little sooner, a little lower. It's like every little thing
comes down to turns. You know, like I think he's really good at scrubbing, and I think that his style probably hides a lot of how good he is at jumping. You know, because he kind of looks effortless, but I think he's pushing and doing much more internally that he's doing to do what he's achieving. But the turns, he's just roll speed is so much better than everyone else.
Chad, you've also been in the path of what Tomac did, a champion, you know, would-be champion guy, not having his best Anaheim 1. You know, it's a lot of points already down. Like Daniel said, you're already down, you know, over 10 points, right? What do you you know, I know they didn't show Tomac a ton, but, you know, I think he had arm pump. I can't really get to the bottom of it. I've been kind of snooping around with some texts and stuff, but wasn't a good night for him. How does he regroup? Or I guess, do you think he regroups and just gets back to where he is, or is this a sign that the panic button could be needed?
I have multiple kind of feelings on Eli, and it's like he looked very much like what I would say pre-Star and Eli, where he just something was missing all day, and he couldn't get it fixed. You know, where last year he may have a practice or two that looked like that, but he'd always able to pull it out of the bag when he needed it. You know, where he didn't seem like he had it. Going off of my own experience, I don't know if this is Eli's planned last year or not, but when you start getting to the end and you know, the inner circle and all those things, when you're like, okay, this is it, you know, and again, like I said, I don't know if it is his last season, but it seems that it's possibly his last season.
He acknowledged that, that this could be it. Yeah, he did say that.
And so I just think that there's so many emotions that go with that, and I underestimated those feelings and emotions, and anytime you get a good start or a bad start, it just seems like the emotions take over. Like if it's good, well, then you just want to win so much that you ruin it. And then if you get a bad start, you're so mad and you ruin it. And it just seems like, I don't know, sometimes like like the walls coming in and like it all going away was harder than anyone could have ever explained to me. So I hope that that's not the case for Eli. I hope it's just a long layoff and he's just a little rusty around the edges. And, you know, a couple of the comments I've seen is that it was Anaheim 1. It hasn't always been the greatest one for him. So he's trying to brush it under the rug and come out swinging next week. And I for a guy that was so fun to watch last year and as a real deserving champion, I would really like to see him up to speed and race Jett. Like I would like to see 2023 Eli against Jett. I think that would be really fun for all of us.
For sure. 702-586-PULP. You got a question for Chad Reed, multi-time Supercross motocross champion on the line. Brought to you by Renthal. Thank you to the folks at Renthal for bringing Chad on the show. Appreciate that. Chad, so the average age of the 250 podium was older than the 450 podium. A couple of the gentlemen on the 250 podium has children. They have children. Well, do you care, Chad? Do you care about that sort of part of our sport? And I mean, you were a guy who famously was like, the only ride I could get was YOT. Otherwise, I would tell them to fuck off. I wanted to go to 450 class, right away. So you were like one and done. Does that bug you, or do you shake your head at that, or are we just like, hey man, they're making a great living and they're not breaking the rules, and good for RJ and Jordan and their kids?
So. No, it doesn't bother me, and I do believe that East and West shouldn't be a thing anymore. I think
100% agree.
Far beyond that point.
100%
I do
agree.
believe that guys like Joey Savacci should be allowed to race, and I don't believe that our sport is big enough nor long enough to ever limit an athlete or a guy that, to pay the bills, and that's my true feeling on that. But our sport in general, if you take, this is what scares me about, like, I think that when you look at Ricky, James, myself, and like basically everyone post Jeremy, when you really looked at what everybody had to go up against, like you couldn't really see anyone really going after that 72 number. But when I look at the field and we call it stacked, like the average guy is in their 30s, like all the good guys, all the factory guys are 28 to 31. And I just think, man, like in the next 5 years, who comes and takes or answers the bell to Jett? I don't see anyone being able to do that. I mean, Hayden, I think, is our only hope at this minute.
Yeah, Hayden could do it for sure, but I see what you mean. Like, these dudes are making $300K in 250s and are like, I'm good. I'll just stay down here.
For me, that's not like, I'm good. You're trying to get something out of me on that, but I'm really not. But I have the opposite feeling. I just think as a 450 class, it's a very, and I don't think they're old, and I'm not saying nothing bad about it. Geez, I raced until I was 38, and I still wish I could line up today. I really do. I miss it like anything. I miss the training. I miss the grind. I miss the travel. I miss it all. So I think these guys should do it as long as they possibly can. So I love that our sport is seeing people go into their later years. But when you see a generational badass like Jett come along with, with some people on maybe let's not even call it the downside, just the level outside, the plane maybe, man, it's a little scary when there's no one coming through.
Yeah. And Chad, it seems backed up, like the dam is full. The whole sport is backed up right now. Like normally these guys at 28, 29, they start moving on out, but you're right. There's like 7 or 8 of these factory guys that are all still legit, and they're all in their 30s, which means the Savachis and the McElrath and the RJs and McAdoos of the world kind of left either out of a ride or still in 250 because there's nowhere to go. Like RJ and Mac, they're all good riders, but they can't beat Anderson and Barsha and Craig, and these guys are like still killing it in their 30s. So to me, the whole thing's just back. Yeah,
like,
it's just backed up.
Like not ready, like even a Christian Craig, like I think he brings so much to the 250 class, and I know it's our future and it's our younger class, but I just think he brings something to it. Like when I looked at the 250 class, it was on the weaker side. Like I mean, geez, I can't believe that everyone's on the East. It's crazy that I've never seen such a lopsided, coast. I mean, Star has 5 guys on the East. I can't believe it. But so just I don't know, something's different. Something's changed. Maybe just people got hurt in the off season, and that's the way the chips all fall. But it's interesting to see how it's playing out.
Yeah, I'm not like, look, Feld and the media, which I'm part of. I'm not sitting here, and you won't hear me say most stacked field ever. Well, first of all, DV would smack me in the face. DV hates that, which is great. But, like, I'm not going to say that either. Like, it is stacked. It's good. There's a lot of champions. I get it.
Like when you break down the names, they are all very good riders. And
with resumes.
Yes,
good resumes.
They're all got really good resumes. But when you see the gaps in the times and stuff on the weekend, it was considerably bigger than you would expect.
Yeah, and so I'm just, I feel like every year, most years, there's also champions, there's also great riders, and you can't really judge one way or another. Like in 1985, that year, I believe there were 9 national champions on the line. You know what I mean? For Anaheim 1 or whatever. So, like, I'm not going to be most stacked field ever guy. I won't be that way. There's no way to really measure that. There's tons of years that are full of great guys. So
it depends what your expectation is stacked. Is it stacked with names? Yes. Is it stacked with guys who can win? Maybe not.
Well, I think what people want to talk about is it's stacked with guys who have rides. No privateers. And that just means there's more teams or whatever. Teams come and go. Like I don't know if
there's
that's
a lot of good teams. Like I think the bikes, and I think that the fact that the bike rolls off the showroom floor is so good now. The KTM group with having 3 different manufacturers. They're a large organization. Triumph coming in, Ducati coming in. It's actually a really great, fun time for the sport. Like it actually offers more rides, and maybe that leads to a real change, and there isn't such a thing as an east-west thing and whatever. And maybe I'm wrong, but I just think that our sport's big enough now that and enough teams and manufacturers coming in to play the game that I think we could handle it.
Easy solution. 250s, just no east, no west, just full championship, and then go futures east and west. There it is.
Ooh,
You're welcome, everybody.
I like that.
All right, we got a phone call. We got a phone call for you, Chad, here from Nick's on 2. Nick, go ahead. What do you want to ask Chad Reed?